Hello, everyone. My name is Daphne Early, and I am a digital marketer with over 20 years' experience. I've consulted and advised hundreds of companies on how to improve their marketing and their technology stacks. And today, I'm going to walk you through three killer mistakes that beginners make, and then I'm going to tell you how to crush them. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Mistake number one is not knowing your customer. It's incredible to me how many times I've come in and I've asked about who specifically are you targeting? And the answer is, well, let's talk about my product. Or I kind of know. It's a whole bunch of people. Or the people on Facebook. That's who I'm targeting. None of those are answers to who you're targeting. You need to really know your customer. And so, the number one thing that I recommend that most people start with is actually identifying one ideal customer who they've either already sold the product to or they clearly know would be interested in this. You can even start this at the very beginning. You don't have to wait until after you've sold your product. The most common and effective way to do this is go talk to your customers from the beginning. Once you've talked to your customer, you can then develop a persona. A persona is key in helping you discuss with the other people that you're working with, including if you're working with a media agency or if you're working with sales, to really define who that customer is. As you get this persona, it makes it easier then to develop your messaging. So, the key to number one is making sure that you actually know your customer and that you develop a persona around that customer. The persona doesn't have to be super specific. And you may say, well, Daphne, I've got 5 or 6 people that I'm targeting. I get that. I totally understand that. But ideally, you want to start with one. It's okay to have up to 2 to 3 personas, but ideally one that really is the ideal customer that you're going after. That's the very first thing that you need to do. Define your ideal customer, make sure you know and you've actually spoken with them so that you can understand who they are. Mistake number two is not noting the problem. So you may think that, the most common mistake number two is not having a good message. Actually, the core issue that so many companies face is really not understanding their customer and then not knowing what problem. They may think that they've developed an incredible product, but the key question here is, what problem are you solving for your customer? You really need to nail down specifically what is their pain point. How are you working through that? How does your product differentiate or solve that problem for them? And what makes it better than the competitors? Why would they choose you over someone else? So, the easiest way to start really thinking about this is, again, going back to your customers. You want to talk to your customers. Once you get the opportunity to speak with them, you really want to dive into that problem. This is going to be the second piece that you're going to develop, is really a deep understanding of what the problem is, how you can go about solving it. And then, most importantly, after you have that problem, that's when you begin to develop your message. You want to develop 3 key messages that you are going to use for your product. Again, it's not about your product. It is not about trying to say, here are all the features and functionality. Really have to zoom in on what that problem is and how you're solving the problem. And then your 3 key messages should address how you are solving that problem. Again, the problem has to come from the customer. Your product has to be a great solution for solving that problem. And so, as you go through and you detail this out, you need to think through, who's my customer? And then, what is the problem that I'm solving? That will naturally lead you to 3 key messages for you to then identify and be able to easily communicate across all of your channels that you choose. Okay, now let's jump over to mistake number 3. Number 3 is not knowing where your customer engages. And often what I find is I will talk to marketers and what they will say is, okay, I know my customer. Okay, yeah, I've got the problem solved. But then they miss this next step, which is where can you actually engage with your customer? And they start saying, I want to be omni-channel. I want to put my content out everywhere. Conceptually, that may sound great, sure, a message in every channel, but your goal is not to simply blast your customer. Your goal is to engage with them, to make them feel like they want this solution, that they want your product. And so, key to actually making that happen is that you must understand which channels they engage with. Not just are on, but actually engage. And there are 2 steps. One, you need to look at where that profile, that customer that you figured out in step 1 is actually going to be at. And then 2, where do they actually engage? And it might be more than one channel. It might be only 2 or 3 channels. The key here is to understand where they engage and how you can get them to engage more. Engagement, let's also define that, does not mean they've simply seen your ad. Engagement means that they're willing to provide you with feedback, see you as a brand that's valuable, and you're beginning to create community. Blasting people in LinkedIn or in Facebook with paid ads is not engagement. Your goal to quickly grow your product base and to actually be able to get to as many customers as possible is really to understand where they engage and how they engage. Yes, old media of blasting on TV and through other channels is completely possible. But that doesn't really start to even touch on what new media can do. New media can provide you with direct feedback from your customers. It can provide you with the opportunity to seek out insights from them and have them naturally promote through organic traffic as they begin to create a customer pool for you. And so my suggestion here is one, identify the channel that you're looking at. Where are your customers most likely to engage? Don't try to start off with omni-channel and going to every channel. Look at a few key channels. Now, you may also need to actually engage them in those channels. And by that, I mean you may need to create a community. Again, if we go back to mistake number 2, where most people don't create the problem, you're going to identify a problem. Now you can easily in Facebook, in LinkedIn, begin to create a community where they can actually address that problem. By creating this community, they will then also invite other people that are interested in solving that problem. And you will snowball into an effect of having your customers engage quickly with you, getting real time feedback. And then, in addition to that, inviting friends who also see that they have the same problem and that you have the solution. So don't go into every channel. That isn't going to work. It might help get the word out, but what it's not going to do is help you actually move towards selling the product and actually getting engagement from customers and building a loyal customer base. 3 mistakes for you to avoid. Let's do a quick recap. The first one is not knowing the customer. You want to make sure that you clearly have defined your customer, specifically your ideal customer, and ideally you've put that together in a simple persona. The second step is not knowing the problem. It's one of the biggest mistakes that people make. They don't have a clear understanding of what problem they're solving for that customer. So while they may talk to a lot of customers, they are not able to articulate how they're solving any problem. And so they simply get stuck having a lot of great conversations, but not actually being able to communicate why their solution, service, or product actually provides value. Finally, not knowing where your customers engage. Omnichannel is all the rage. The reality is it's very inefficient. And the most successful way to consider and engage with your customers is by defining a community and then either engaging with them there or finding another community that already exists and leveraging that to engage with them. These are the two most successful ways to actually figure out where your customers engage and then engage with them. We've discussed the problem. Now let's talk about the solution. It may seem pretty apparent, but it's shocking to me that this solution can be this simple, but so many people miss it. So the first thing you want to do is you want to really talk to your customers. You want to get out in the field and actually have discussions with them. The second is you want to work through how to develop a customer persona. This can easily be done by using ChatGPT or generative AI. Just type in some information about your product and what it does, perhaps some competitors, and ask it to put together a customer persona. This can easily be your starting point for developing out the complete customer persona. You're going to take the knowledge that you've learned from talking and meeting with your customers to actually develop out this persona. The next thing you want to do is really define the customer problem. Hopefully, as you're talking with your customers, you're able to actually have conversations with them about what problem they're trying to solve. And hopefully, this will very clearly define that customer problem. Once you have the customer problem, I really strongly suggest that you go back and you talk to your customers. At this point, you want to validate the problem with them. This can be a quick and easy conversation. Hey, I spoke with you a few weeks ago. Here's the product that we're building. We think it'll solve your problem. What do you think? And get the feedback. This also gives you an opportunity to really think about the messages and define them in a very actionable and real way that will make sense to that customer. Next, you want to go through and define where your customers engage. This doesn't mean what channel they're on. That's one level at which you want to think about it. But as you're talking to your customers, you want to ask them the simple question of, hey, where do people like you engage? Where do you get your information? Is there a community that I can potentially tap into? Are there other people that I can talk with? As you begin to further define that customer, you'll find that either they already have an existing community that they're actively part of, or you'll find that you need to build a customer community. Building a customer community can be as simple as creating a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group. Either way, you need to really figure out how you're going to build that community. This is where you can seek feedback and then also engage with them. And that is precisely the final step. Engage with that customer community. Yes, you've talked to a couple. Yes, you've developed a customer persona. And you have the customer problem. But you want to further engage with them to get their feedback. As you talk to them, you'll be able to go through and refine this whole solution. It's the key to really great marketing. And it's the easiest thing you can do fairly quickly to get a great grasp on your marketing audience, who your customers are, what problem you're trying to solve, and how you can actually engage with them in a way that's helpful and creates a win-win situation.